Hello everyone. I am back. With another review. This time on the Hiya Toys Godzilla King of the Monsters Godzilla. Now, yes, this was a review meant specifically for Godzilla's 70th anniversary. So happy birthday, happy 70th anniversary, and happy 70th birthday to the King of the Monsters, the Big G himself. And I will hopefully November 10th, that's what I'm thinking, I will upload the review of the Super 7 -1 as, again, more Godzilla Day stuff. But until then, this will come out hopefully tomorrow on Godzilla Day, on Godzilla's 70th anniversary. So, anyways, before we move on to the figure, let's start off with the box. Now, the box is like your standard Jakks. It's kind of like the Jakks-specific boxes. That's why it's like blue and gray and everything. So this is technically the front of the box. I'll admit it looks a little ugly. On the side, Godzilla King of the Monsters. If you remember, they always have this. It feels nostalgic coming back to something like this. On the other side, same thing, Godzilla King of the Monsters. On the top, Godzilla King of the Monsters with some cracks on it. And on the bottom, Godzilla King of the Monsters. And on the back, you really get a lot of stuff here, including the overall product right there, and UPCs and everything. Although there's no bio, there's no anything like that. But yeah, we just only get one product shot of the figure, and then while the front does most of the work. I'll admit it's a little bit plain looking. I don't really care for it as much. It's not as good as, let's say, their other boxes, which I will show on screen, for example, like their Muto or their Burning Godzilla or even their Fire Rodan. They've been really cooking with their boxes as of late. But now let's move on to the figure. So, let's be real here. Hiya was a big surprise, I feel. I was not expecting the company that did those very small Predator figures to actually do a Godzilla license. Or just do Godzilla figures in general. I thought they would be smaller as well. Until, of course, their first release, that being this figure right here, the Godzilla 2021 from Godzilla vs. Kong, was released in 2022. That figure was so good that people are already saying that it's better than Monster Arts. And of course, I wanted to jump in on the bandwagon, but I didn't really get started and already bought myself an order on version 1 of the Hiya Godzilla because I didn't know that there was I didn't know where to buy it. So, fast forward to late 2023, around December, I actually was looking forward to finding this guy. And because one of my comic book stores had this, I was like, screw it. I may as well get it. And I got it. And overall, it has really changed my perception of how I view Godzilla figures. To the point now, I am so addicted to buying Hiya than really buying anything from Monster Arts unless it's an older release. So, yeah. Now, another thing too to say is that there are many versions of this mold. Remember, for quick history and a quick summary, this figure was technically the remold of the version 1. That's why, like, every version, not just like Godzilla's powered up forms like Energized, Burning, or Atomic Blast versions, it's not just they were repainted and reused, but even more standard variants like Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong and even pre-evolved from Godzilla X Kong were later using this mold rather than using the version 1. So, the question that everyone is answering, that already probably is answered, is this figure worth buying despite the popularity of Monster Arts? Well, I will discuss that with you, starting off with the painting and the sculpting. Godzilla stands at a rough almost 6.5 to 6.6 inches, making him actually taller than other MonsterVerse Godzillas. And for comparison, Here he is compared to the NECA 2014 and the SH Monster Arts 2019. Now, I know I did a little custom on this, on the teeth, and I know I used 2014 instead of 2019, but I used mine for a custom NECA Evolved, Godzilla Evolved. But here's what I mean. Just look at their articulation. I'm going to go over this in articulation. Here's NECA 2014, right? If you want to use his arm, his legs, they're like this, and it looks really awkward. If you want to use Monster Arts', you have to like do this, but then at the risk of a little bit of gappage, or it just looks really weird. And then you have this one, which is just so much better. Also, I'll bring off NECA 2014 to the side, but there's a lot of difference here. This guy actually, in comparison, feels really slim. In comparison, Monster vs. Godzilla is a big, hefty, chunky boy. So this figure captures its the design and the character's proportions so well than even Monster Arts. Monster Arts is like is like very slim, very slick. And while granted, you could get so much better posing with this one, and I still have a soft spot for this one because this is a figure I really wanted for a while, it's nothing compared to this one, which is just a solid brick. This one has better, granted has better articulation, but is getting loose over time. This one is just absolutely better. Also, even more, look at the necks, right? Godzilla 2019... At the time, this was acceptable. Now it's kind of unacceptable. It's essentially a snake. It's a snake-like neck, and I'll admit, it looks really weird on camera. Now, I think this was meant to accompany this just because, you know, the figure was designed like this. But they could have at least made a better design for the head. I mean, a lot of other customizers, I'll show them on screen, they showed a much better comparison of showcasing, you know, how a regular Monster vs. Godzilla head, like with the Hiya, could do well on the Monster Arts. So, yeah, there's that. And then if you look at this one, it's a lot more proportioned. And as you can also see, there's barely any gills. You could see it maybe it's this thing. This part right here, maybe that's the gills. But it's not as noticeable as the Hiya. And then bringing 2014 back... yeah, you could kind of see the gills. It's kind of there. But I feel like on 2019, it's just more lumps. And I don't think they're as intricately detailed as, again, Hiya. Although, then again, they nailed the neck. But, unfortunately, not so much articulation. This is in comparison to a Monster Arts who can look this far and this far. Coupled with his new snake neck. Unlike this guy who is so proportioned that the neck doesn't annoy him. So there's that. So yeah, long, lengthy comparison, but I just really want to show you the comparisons between the two. They're essentially both, they're all really good. Just pick your preference. I personally pick the NECA, well not the NECA, the Hiya, because it's just so much better in terms of painting, sculpting, even solidity. But I really appreciate the Monster Arts to a huge extent, not just because of my bias, but because during that time, I think the 2014 figure just looked really not that good. So this one was at least close to an improvement. But yeah, the NECA 2014 is good, or the NECA figures. But I'd say this is definitely better than the NECA 2019. That thing was derpy as hell. Anyways, moving forward to another size comparison. This is just a random one. Here he is compared to the Playmates Godzilla Evolved. Yes, I am really looking forward to the Hiya Godzilla Evolved. And of course, Kaukus Toys currently got Monster Arts Evolved in stock. See, I would get it. I'm not willing to risk paying like boatloads of money for it though. Like, if I could just pay maybe, like, I don't, like, maybe just 100 or so, that'd be fine. But 180 is absolutely trash. That is absurd. Nope. That thing is also kind of small. But, yeah, this is the only Evolved I have until, you know, again, NECA and well, not until NECA, until the Hiya and the Monster Arts come out, and yes, I will be getting both. I don't care. I would love to get both. And for another comparison, here he is compared to the not Hiya Toys, the SH Monster Arts Kong exclusive version. And yeah, you're maybe asking, oh, why don't you have the Hiya Kong or from GVK? Well, I do have the Skull Island Kong, but I'm not going to get the GVK Kong. That Kong just looks really weirdly proportioned, and while it's very well sculpted, it just doesn't sit right. Also, its articulation is really bad, in my opinion, in comparison to this Kong. And, however, as I'm going to show on screen here, the GXK Kong, both releases, yeah, I'm getting those. Those look way better in comparison to this guy. So yeah, and as for one final Godzilla comparison, here he is compared to your average 6-inch scale figure, the Marvel Legends What If Zombie Captain America. And you may be asking, what have I done to this figure? Well, I have basically customized it. I made it into my own very super hyper-realistic figure, and I think in the near future, I will be starting a new series on my channel, which is basically just Custom Figure Showcase, or CFS. I need a better acronym, hopefully I think the acronym is correct. But, yeah, I will try and start that. It won't be short related. It's going to be a full-blown video, essentially. So, yeah. Now let's move on to my final thoughts. So, overall, is this figure worth buying? Yes. It doesn't, now as to which version I recommend, I don't know, because I don't have GVK version 2 and the pre-evolved from GXK, but overall, I still recommend it. For any first-time Godzilla collectors, or anyone who wants to get into Godzilla collecting, I really recommend getting stuff from Hiya. They are so affordable in comparison to Monster Arts. Monster Arts just goes for like hundreds, $200, and it's absolutely crazy. Whereas like this guy goes for like, what, 80 Canadian? Or 70 Canadian? Or even more, or even less in the US, like 60 to 50, which is crazy to think about, because that's essentially almost, what, half the price of a Monster Arts? So, essentially, yeah, you could be paying for this, and you're getting a lot more with this than with a Monster Arts figure, which is essentially now getting less and less as every single year. So, overall, yeah, definitely recommend getting this guy. I'd say it's probably even a perfect 10. I'll be real with you. But, we'll get to that later. I think, yeah, sure, he doesn't really have any accessories. If you have any beam effects, or if you can make your own beam effects, go ahead and make some. As a figure, it's perfect. It matches, it's perfect for Godzilla. And I'd say, in my opinion, it's definitely the perfect MonsterVerse Godzilla that it felt like no one could nail at the time. Now it's been fully nailed with stuff like this figure. It's just absolutely crazy to think about, that this is now essentially the new NECA. The new NECA with affordable pricing, and hell, I even recommend going so far as collecting their other options. Hiya is just downright cooking at this point, with not only just countless variants of Godzilla, but even other kaiju that we wanted so badly. Dude, we're getting a Heisei King Ghidorah. Are you kidding me? And we're getting a Heisei Godzilla that looks better than the Monster Arts. And I'll get that. I know I have a bunch of Heisei Godzillas, but I don't care. I will get it. So overall, I think out of 10, I gotta give it maybe 10 out of 10. It may be 9.5, maybe just for the fact that the articulation may not be great for some, as it's not too posable, it's a little bit stiff, but definitely a 10 out of 10. It's a great figure, and it's definitely, for me, the perfect legendary Godzilla figure on the market for now. And it's it's perfect because it's a good budget. So yeah, definitely recommend it. With a discount or not, it's definitely worth your money. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and as of course, I will do the -1 review. So until then, I will see you guys next time, whenever that may be. Bye bye.